Good evening. Thanks for joining TEDxSpokane this evening. We are live at the Lucky You Lounge, here to have a conversation with Karli Ingersoll. I am Charlie Wolf, co-curator this year of TEDxSpokane 2021 with good friend Eric Woodard. And these events are basically to get you excited about TEDxSpokane and to remember past speakers and to continue conversations with speakers like Karli. So tonight we want to revisit Karli's talk from 2019.
Yeah.
Ask her a couple of questions about what was going through her head at that time and check in with her to see where we are today. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, what the heck? How have things been going on since 2019?
I mean, a lot of things have been going on, I guess. We're here at Lucky You, and we've been closed most of the past year. No live music, which is weird. Yeah, so I guess the pandemic has mostly been going on, but...
Well, so let's rewind to maybe some... to 2019, you took us on a journey that I think I want to remind our community about that journey. But you were on a design journey, a music art exploration journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, can you take us back to that time and maybe some of the things that you were thinking about that you experienced through TEDx, and then maybe even from there, something you may have learned?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was asked to pitch a talk as kind of a performance art element of the 2019 show. And I didn't really have a concrete idea when I went into that, the that first time I met you guys. And then when I got paired with my coach, Sarah, it was kind of that experience was a journey for me. Because I didn't have a concrete idea. I had all of these ideas floating around, about like music in the community, music just in my own life and my own experience. And I love to talk about all of those things, I could go on and on. And she kind of made me get really personal with it, which I didn't necessarily set out to do. But she was great, and we kind of just like dug really deep into my my story of like when I first started songwriting and kind of the path that music took me on. And I really love the foundation of that talk and like the message of it. It's like spurred a lot of really interesting conversations with other musicians and artists, and I still feel like it resonates with me now as much as it did in that moment. So yeah, it was a cool experience. It was very like therapeutic kind of for me.
I've heard that before, where it helps people internalize or look back at what they've done, and maybe that's something that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe Sarah, as your coach, kind of helped you kind of put those pieces together.
Yeah.
But even give that story to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah. I guess talk about that process.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my talk was meant to include music, and so it was kind of just she kind of asked me to, well, I guess we met a few times, and I kind of would like have all these notes and like read them to her, and she'd be like, what about that, and like kind of pick little things that seemed really relatable or interesting, that she thought could make for an interesting like narrative through the whole talk. And then through those conversations, I would kind of like pick which songs I wanted to like weave throughout that story. So it ended up being like, we kind of just told like a very autobiographical story of my experience. And then the nice thing is when you write songs, your songs are kind of an autobiographical story of your experience as well. So like, I feel like it worked out well for the songs to kind of like be a an illustration of the story that I was telling. But yeah, I think I cried one time when we were like having lunch, and she just was like, "That seems really hard for you," and I was like, "Yeah." But the whole thing was really emotional. And 2019 was a hard year for me just personally, so I think I was a little bit in the middle of some of that too. But yeah, we had a really good connection, and she made an impact on me for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You did. I wanted to call back to some of the songs that you chose and maybe just ask, could you tell us a little bit more about why you chose some of these songs without having to go all the way back into the detail, but early it was Whiskey Flowers.
Yeah, I mean, that was like my first song when I was like playing out and like touring a little bit that really like was catching people's attention, and so it kind of made me feel, kind of took me on this like journey as a songwriter of like, oh, this is something people like, and then you do all this like analyzing of like, well, what is it about that song? And so that song was really like instrumental in my kind of experience of like taking my music more seriously. Yeah, it's a Karli Fairbanks classic, as my friends like to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You jumped to another song, and that was I think it was the Songbird's Tune. Can you remind me what's the gap in time between Whiskey Flowers and Songbird's Tune? Because you had a realization there too that you talked to us about.
Yeah, and that song was like from the first EP that Cathedral Pearls did, which is a band that I'm still in. We have been a band for 10 years now. I'm trying to think, like, Whiskey Flowers was probably 2007, and Songbird's Tune I probably wrote in like 2011. So about 4 years.
But you were coming to kind of this realization that it's a little bit more about celebrating and supporting other artists through Songbird's Tune. It was kind of the culmination or the
well, yeah,
takeaway.
at that point I had kind of grown a bit tired of the solo artist thing. And just like, it's just a lot of work and you're kind of doing it all yourself. And so I formed that band. And it really was all about like community and music and community and just like wanting to play music with my friends and my husband Caleb, and just like do it for fun. And so yeah, that time was definitely an exploration of that idea of like music. I wanted music to be fun again for me, and that song is a good moment for that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then it sounds like you, I think even in that period, you guys were working on and expanding the Bartlett. Is that about right? 2011?
We opened the Bartlett in 2013. So it was a twinkle in our eye at that point. But yeah, we were kind of working on the idea of it. But it wasn't really until the Empyrean closed that we really kind of like dug in with the idea of the Bartlett.
And I guess I'm just kind of leading us back down that 2019 talk discussion, which I thought was awesome because it hopefully took you to the next phase. And that you remarked in the talk about at the Bartlett being free to create and participate in your open mic series.
Yeah.
And that
opened
you up again.
I went all in with the like rock band thing, which was super fun, but I think I went all in with it because I was so burnt out on kind of bearing my soul on stage, and the Bartlett opened this little door where I was like, oh, maybe I still really enjoyed doing music that way and being more vulnerable on stage and sharing songs that are a bit more personal. And so yeah, the Bartlett open mic, it's funny. It was always a mixed experience, kind of a funny. Open mics are just funny because they draw all sorts of types of people and all levels of talent, but it was just this like really supportive, like cool little group of people. I met so many fun people, and when you would get up on stage and like play a new song, it was like everyone would just like celebrate you. It was like really sweet.
We're trying to foster that at TEDxSpokane as well, a community around this, and I think a lot of our alumni say that with their cohort, and arguably we continue the conversation online as much as we can, or even in salons like this. But
Yeah.
I think we're eager to continue to challenge people to continue to foster their ideas, but also to make change within the community that they're in too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, Keonta was the same year as me, and I've run into her in a few different circles since then, and I'm like, man, I feel like it's so cool because it's an intimidating experience, you know.
For sure.
Getting up on stage and kind of like doing this thing that you hopefully memorized well enough to remember, and but yeah, it's a cool connection. I feel like I have those people that did it that same year.
Yep, Keonta Duncan. Yeah, great performance on being a level 10, I believe. But yeah, awesome. So kind of transitioning into even taking it, the feedback from your experience in TED, do you have anything that you would tell other people about the TED experience, and maybe getting them excited about or asking them to participate in it? And then even, I guess, taking that a step further, what did you take away from the TED experience?
Yeah, I think, you know, you guys are always like asking us to think about people who might be a good fit for it or whatever. And in my mind, I'm just like, you don't have to be like scholarly or like be, have like a perfectly encapsulated like thing that's like also your profession. You know, I think people get intimidated because they think a TED Talk or a TEDx talk and they're like, well, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this.
You're absolutely right.
And I just think like it's so fun to just hear people talk about their lives and talk about what they're passionate about, you know? And I think that's the biggest thing is like everyone has something that they've fostered in themselves through their like life experience or through their career or whatever that might be that is going to be worth sharing.
Agreed. And some of those are some of the most amazing because they don't even think they have a story to tell. And yet you ask them a couple of questions and they just open up.
Yeah.
And they start,
And I mean, like Humans of New York, I don't know if you follow them on social or whatever, but it's one of my favorite feeds because it's just real people, like telling a story and then there's some pictures with it. Like, it just that kind of sense of a window into someone's life and what they, even kind of what they feel like they have to offer the world. And I think the coaching experience too is really cool because whatever you think you have to offer, they help guide you and make that into something that will be easily understood to a larger group of people and palatable in a way that I think makes sense. So
you concluded in your talk talking about how the music industry was somewhat broken, and it's very difficult for an artist to succeed or survive. And I thought what you left us with in the saying, if you can find joy and or peace with some of the process, that you can overcome some of that.
yeah.
I guess coming back to that for you, how have you learned to continue to do that, or what switch flipped for you, and I guess what advice would you have for other people transcending just music, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a
All
phenomenal
arts, yeah.
idea. Yeah. Well, even professions, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that talk is kind of the story of how the switch flipped for me. You know, it was a lot of heartbreak and like, you know, I was joke with other musician friends about like how hard we try to quit, you know, because like you just feel like it's so pointless and futile to make music. I mean, but you always end up back in it. And so it's like, you got to just stop thinking about that. You got to just like retrain your mind to be like, no, I'm actually not going to quit. And like, yes, it's hard and I get that and I accept it, but like, I'm just going to do this because quitting, and I think for me, it was like, I did try different ways of quitting, but I just would end up back in it anyway, you know? And so I think that's the thing, like, for me, the solution to not keep going down that path of wanting to quit was to just like let myself really enjoy the process and just like the gift that it is to be creative and like make things. And I think that's like it's so easy to get caught up. I mean, yeah, any profession, I think, to like get caught up in this like end goal of what you think success looks like and be working towards that, which isn't a bad thing, but it's when you forget to like be present with what you're doing in the moment, because then that is, you just lose sight of it and you aren't connecting with it. And with music, for me, it's like I have to be like in that and doing it in a way that is like present and authentic in the moment, instead of just like thinking of like, oh, when I release that song, this is going to be the outcome and that's what I'm working towards. Because it just doesn't, you can't predict those things, you can't control them. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
That was my big takeaway, and I really appreciated it. Was allow yourself to be part of the process, and it's okay.
I'm like telling
to be back
all my
into it.
artist friends, go watch my TED Talk because like you need this.
But that's really cool. I think that's part of what we hope you can create. And I guess I'd take that to the next question. Would be around what has happened, I guess. Have you found new relationships? Have you found even new success? Have you seen new failure out of your TEDxSpokane experience? And moving here even into the next couple of years, not jumping yet to lucky you, but just have you seen additional opportunities or people coming out of the woodwork to talk to you about your talk specifically, and maybe asking for advice or direction?
A little bit, and just in the music community, I think it has kind of reignited some conversations that, I'm kind of always having that conversation with people. I think it's getting something like that out and like having it on video. It's like, okay, now I have to continue to follow through with that myself. So I think it's like
holding you accountable.
It is, yeah. It's like I'm my 2019 self is holding me accountable in the future, because it's it can be hard. And as far as like success or openings, I haven't really experienced much, or maybe I haven't pinpointed what those would be at this point, but definitely that kind of personal like fulfillment of that concept. I'm like, okay, always reminding myself of those things that I kind of unveiled during the talk.
Yeah. And I guess moving forward, would you add a song to the end of your talk today that is a new version, a new chapter of your life or your career?
I have written some songs the last year and a half that I feel like are relevant, definitely, and have kind of come on the end of that journey that could make a lot of sense in addition to that talk. I was thinking, I wish I would have done visuals, because I'm a visual artist also, and I think in the moment I was like, oh, that just will be too much.
Yeah.
But then when I watched the talk later, I'm like, it would have been really cool if I would have put something together.
Up on a PowerPoint or even on stage.
Like that's literally what I do for work, is design things. So next time.
No, I think that's we're always looking for actually coaches and people to participate in the community, and having that conversation would be awesome. Right?
Yeah.
Having you provide some feedback to even present potential speakers like in this forum, but also coming and speaking to our 2021 crew, and or working on our coaching staff. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be super. So moving, I guess, a little bit forward, how is this even lucky you and where you are right now? How is that a continuation of your experience, and it can continuing your career, I guess, and path?
It's complicated. When we got into the business of running music venues, it was because we love live music, that was such a huge pull for us. And I think the Bartlett was so much my like baby of the community organizing and really investing in the arts community. Lucky is a little different, and intentionally we designed it differently in hopes of being more sustainable, because the Bartlett was not. And so, obviously it's been a pandemic, but it definitely is business model that has more potential for long-term success, which is what we want. You know, we want to like invest in the community in a way that will have a long impact.
I think the community needs it now more than ever, too.
Yeah, I mean, communities need spaces where like art can be expressed, and that's what we're super passionate about. Sometimes I wish it didn't also have to be with a, you know, restaurant and a bar and like 30 employees, and like, you know, it's just a really big undertaking, and it can be a huge, I mean, this past year's been obviously a huge challenge because we haven't been able to be open, but even when we are open, it is like a huge challenge, and it's not as creative as sometimes I would like it to be. It's just very much a machine that has to kind of stay well oiled, but I do think we both, like, the past year we've had more time to do more recording and collaborating with other musicians, although we're not doing anything live. Like, we've still been able to like have some, you know, engagement with that, and we'll always do that. You know, it's huge for us. So until live music fully comes back, we're like still, you know, doing as much as we can with music.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we check in and see if there's any other questions from our Facebook followers?
Yeah, I'll say it and then you say it because you're mic'd. At what point did you discover your gift, or did your gift discover you?
Oh, cute.
At what point did you discover your gift, or did your gift discover you? Thank you.
I have a funny story about that, actually. So my dad is a musician. I grew up him like playing guitar and singing, and he was always like on my brother and I about like, singing is so fun, you should sing, like it's great. And we were all just like, ooh, like we were just really shy, and my dad's more of kind of an extrovert, but I did pick up we took like classical piano lessons for a long time, and then I did start to pick up guitar in like junior high, and I think it must have been my freshman year of high school. I was like, I would only ever sing if I knew no one was
watching. No
one could hear me. Okay. Like people were, you know, 5 miles away. And I thought that I was by myself. I was like in the living room. I was like playing this song. And my mom was outside and the window was open. She like came in and she was like, what was that? She was like, was that a CD? And I was like, no. But it was this moment where I was like, I knew I was starting to know that I liked to sing, and I loved playing and singing, and it was like learning guitar, singing is like learning songs is like the best way to do that. And so I was doing a lot of that, and I was like, oh, maybe I am not tone deaf. It was like that moment for me as like a probably 15-year-old where I was like, that would be really cool if I wasn't tone deaf, and I like needed someone to like prove that to me. So I don't know if that answers that question, but I think that story is funny.
That's awesome.
So my mom discovered my gift.
How do you see the future of the music community after COVID?
How do you see the music community after COVID?
You know, I have a lot of hopes. I really want to see a more equitable future for our music community. And I fear that that's going to be hard because we're now limited to one all ages venue. And I just think accessibility is going to be an issue. And I hope there are people I know that have been thinking about like starting something. But that's been hard since we closed the Bartlett, just knowing that means Spokane loses another all ages venue, and then the Pin closed permanently since COVID. So I know it'll be hopping, obviously. Like people are gonna be like playing shows as much as they can, and like people will be going out to shows as much as they can. I know it will like get back to that. What I really always care about is making sure that like there's opportunities for young people and for minorities, and just for like a diverse range of types of musicians and types of people to be able to access performing. So that's kind of my hope Right.
Have you seen, and I apologize, it's not my exactly my scene, but I guess to piggyback on the question, have you seen somebody doing it well through the pandemic that's able to either put more of their content on social or broadcast it in a different fashion that normally wasn't utilized? Or,
As far as a venue or a musician?
I guess to maybe take it back to the question, how music might be changing through the pandemic.
I mean, yeah.
And how are you surviving to get your art out, I guess, is part of the question.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's least favorite word right now is pivot, and it's like trying to see music. I think Alan Stone, who lives here in Spokane, is a perfect example of someone who has like gone full pivot from touring full time to like literally having created a production studio and has his own show that he does once a week with like featured special guests and his own band, and then he does these like full like movie style mockumentaries. He's done 3 now, and he like premieres them online, and it's a combination of a live show with like kind of sketch comedy style thing. So he has a personality where he can kind of pull that off, but he's been super inspirational to us and has helped us actually with our live stream setup and what we've been doing here. But the problem is, especially for venues, is like you can't pivot to anything that will make anywhere near the money that you would make with a live in-person thing, because the money that we actually make on shows is on alcohol, not tickets, and bands keep most of the ticket money. Ticket money goes to the industry, and alcohol goes to pay the bills. So without that, there is no pivot really, I mean, you could think long term about something like Alan's doing with like a show where you're just creating a lot of content for the internet.
Yeah.
But that's a slow roll, so yeah.
Awesome.
This one's a little specific. It says, versus the compliment, KP sounded outstanding covering Wilco. I hope you know what that means.
Oh.
Is there going to be new Pearls music on the horizon?
Oh boy, who is that? Can you tell me who's asking that?
After.
Okay. So the compliment was Kathy P's sounded great doing Wilco, which that's the band that I'm in. The abbreviation, we call it Kathy P's. We just did a live stream with the Baby Bar and covered Wilco. And then the question is, are we going to hear new music? And yes, we are celebrating 10 years of being a band this year, which is crazy. And we're making a double album where like we have 20 songs that we haven't recorded that we've kind of like racked up. Max and I have written over the last couple of years, and we're recording them this year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, lots of new music to come.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
It's fun.
I have one more. What would you tell a baby artist now, like a young artist?
You've offered a lot of inspiration. I don't mean to disrupt. I want you to keep thinking about it, but that's one tenet that I would hold on to in your fostering and really working towards that as in an all ages venue.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I would call out. I think you do a wonderful job of trying to pull up those artists and inspire, and maybe it comes from your own story.
Yeah.
At kind of finding that voice at 15.
Yeah.
And struggling to be confident in it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody maybe is too, but I think you're seeing. I don't want to project that, but I hear that.
Yeah, I mean, for a musician especially, you got to practice. I mean, that is just like fundamental to getting anywhere and feeling even better about what you're doing, and even if that means like jamming. Like just playing as much as you can. And then the other thing is just have fun and like don't take everything too seriously. Yeah. Those would be my 2 things. But practicing. I mean, my niece and nephew both really like music, and like they like to have fun. It's like you want to have fun, but you also have to learn how to be proficient. You have to practice, and it can be hard. So,
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to
It's fun.
lucky you. we need to shout out to Haley Lydig, also to 12 Acre Films for helping to put our production together. We're grateful for, we're over 100 alumni now in our TEDx community, which is phenomenal.
What year will this be?
Technically, we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary, which is an awesome celebration as well as to you. But we're really excited for TEDx 2021. And
do you have a date, or you have a plan or
idea? We do.
Idea?
We're early October again.
You probably haven't announced.
We have not announced a theme, but no, I appreciate the. No, I think we're super excited. We are looking at how we might shake things up a little bit, and encourage. I think the whole point of TED, I mean, the mission, I guess, to share ideas with sharing and spreading and really pull out from our community these wonderful ideas, just like yours, that may go unheard. And I think that's we're trying to give voice to as many people as we can, and get them out to more people to inspire that and to inspire people to continue to create more great things, or even inspire them to take on new challenges and change. So that part's awesome. But we are we are taking applications currently. We have a few more spots to fill. Look for more salons. So we hope to invite a couple more alumni back and have those conversations, more TEDx salon events. And I guess look for some feedback if you need or have an interest to getting involved. We're always looking for help there too. So volunteering in the community for spreading the word, but also being involved in the day of the event as well. So yeah, check us out online and or reach out to us on Facebook. So.
Can I ask what happened with? Did you start the process in 2020, and were there people that kind of
we did?
Get
no, I think
over?
that's a great continuation. I don't mean to So 2020 we pivoted and we did a very virtual event where we did have, and we'd gone through the application process. We had selected almost a full slate of speakers and invited them, and we had to go back and kind of talked about how we needed to pivot, and in that we gave people the option to they had committed to something, and we were changing the commitment essentially, and so we were trying to give them the choice to participate or not. And so we again have gone back to a number of those participants for 21 and tried to discuss what 21 would look like. And so we're in the mix of lining up our speaker series for 21 as well. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't call it a hybrid, but I'd say we're really excited about the direction that the 10th year anniversary can take.
Yeah.
And so look for some pretty amazing new direction and or kind of maybe a different format than what you usually or typically would see for the past 9 years.
Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we are too. Thanks again for hosting us at the Lucky You. Hopefully more people will be joining us sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And you can continue to support artists. But thanks for your work in supporting musicians.
Thank you. Appreciate it.